What's going on, friends and neighbors? So, no one else finds it suspicious that Russell Brand has almost 7 million followers on YouTube. Talks truth to power, as people like to say, right? So, he talked about the pharmaceutical companies being, in cahoots with the government and buying up media ads and the military industrial complex, and then the MSM, the mainstream media, being in cahoots and pushing fake stories and, pretending that one, Mockingbird media is different than the other Mockingbird media. And now all of a sudden, there's a documentary about some broads. And I'm not saying that he couldn't be guilty of it. Anybody could be guilty of anything, I guess, right? But it doesn't seem suspicious to anybody else. I mean, he does seem like a pretty down-to-earth, grounded individual. I mean, that may have come from doing some bad things in the past. I know for myself, I was a heroin addict, and I did some fucked up shit during that I'm not too proud of, but that made me step on the path that I'm on now to fixing myself physically, mentally, and spiritually, right? So I'm not saying that it couldn't be true. What I'm saying is it just seems awfully suspicious that it's coming out now. And I think two of the things are oh, he was coercive about sex, right? I mean, anybody who's been in any kind of relationship, not everybody's always down to fuck every minute of the day, right? Sometimes you're like, come on, wait, we can't do a little bit. And then they're like, all right, fine, hurry up, let's do this, right? And that goes on both sides, Not everybody's into it every single time, all the time, 100%, Sometimes someone's giving more than others, and sometimes people are receiving even though they don't necessarily were in the mood per se, It doesn't mean that it was rape, doesn't mean that it was sexual misconduct, and the other two things are unfounded, as far as we know, we'll get the story up, but this isn't a court of law, you know what I mean? You see the topic, you'll see the title of the story. Everybody says they see the title of the story, right? Everybody sees the title of the story, like, oh, he's being accused of rape and sexual misconduct, oh, and then no further investigation needed, right? That's where it ends, in the public eye, right? And the jury of the public court, right? I mean, it's just very suspicious, He talks about mainstream media a lot. He talks about the deep state. He talks about CIA, FBI. He talks about MI6, because he's in the UK, and and if you look at Channel 3, it's basically like CNN Plus or some shit. You know what I mean? It's the same type of crap. Owned by the same type of people that own all of our media, which all seems to turn out to be BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, yeah, I mean, until he's charged and convicted, I'm riding with him. I don't believe every little, accusation that people, are putting forth. I mean, some of these things were 15, 20 years ago. I think the earliest one, which wasn't even, it was like coerciveness, or being persuasive to get sexual favors or something. I mean, and that was 10 years ago, It's just funny. You can get famous, and as long as you're not going against the grain, you'll be fine. You can do whatever the fuck you want. I mean, look how long Epstein was in operation, right? I mean, look at how long Weinstein was in operation for, right? And you're gonna tell me these aren't CIA freaking honeypots and this? I'm just saying, So, but if you get popular going against the mainstream media, the mainstream war narrative, right? The mainstream, oh, there's a racist everywhere. There's everybody's prejudice. Everybody's this. Russia, China, they're coming for us. You know what I mean? Then they come out after you. Oh, 10 years ago he said this. Oh, eight 18 years ago, he touched a woman's bottom, and at the time she didn't mind, but now that she thinks about it, it was wrong. You know what I mean? And this happens to men all the time, you know, and I'm not saying that you know, people aren't guilty of atrocious, heinous stuff. They are, you know, but there's a thing called due process, right? Innocent until proven guilty, right? I mean, everybody said, oh, there's no proof that Biden's corrupt, blah, blah. Okay, innocent until proven guilty, right? Even if it's somebody you don't like a Donald Trump. Just because you hate Donald Trump doesn't mean that you can't hate the corruption of the Democratic Party. You know, just because you hate Republicans doesn't mean you can't hate the corruption of the Democratic Party. Just because you hate the Democrats doesn't mean that you can't be looking into the corruption or hate the corruption of the Republican Party, right? Like, we should want to root out corruption no matter who's causing it and who's doing it, right? We should want to know if they're trying to freaking, you know, circumnavigate the First Amendment or any of the Bill of Rights, you know, or the Constitution. You know, we need a revolution, folks, but it can't be, we can't have an armed, violent revolution. We can't. It has to be a silent, I have an idea for this. I'm going to put it out in a video, but, you know, it has to be nonviolent, just like those, the protests in the 60s at the lunch counters. It has to be like that. You got to be able to take a punch and take the abuse and not even change your facial expression. But anyway, yeah, I don't know if I'm buying this shit about Russell Brand, you know. It just seems way too convenient. Have a great day, everybody. Love you. Peace.